We believe children deserve access to comprehensive, evidence-based autism evaluations in less than 72 hours. At Amazing Kids, we believe a diagnosis is not the end point, it is the beginning of a plan. Our mission is to empower parents with clarity, teamwork, and direction so children can grow toward independence and confidence. A critical part of that journey is learning from people who have walked this path, not just clinically, but personally. Today's conversation reflects that full spectrum. Today on Amazing Kids podcast, we are honored to welcome three incredible voices who each bring a unique and deeply important perspective to the autism journey. First, Janetta Bryant, founder and CEO of Abilities Workshop, publisher of Bright Feats, author, national speaker, and host of the Vortex podcast. Janetta has dedicated her work to supporting families navigating autism and addressing the fragmentation in the advocacy landscape, all while bringing the perspective of a mom and a caregiver. Welcome, Janetta. Good morning. We are also joined by Yasmin, a devoted mother and advocate who has spent over 2 decades navigating her son's journey from early diagnosis through adulthood, balancing career, family, and the realities of raising a child with autism. And Anthony, whose story is at the heart of today's conversation, diagnosed at age 3, Anthony has navigated school, work, athletics, and independence. Today, he works full-time, runs competitively, and continues to push what's possible. Welcome, Yasmin and Anthony. Together, this conversation gives us something powerful, not just the parent perspective, not just the system's perspective, but the lived experience across a full journey. Janetta, Yasmin, Anthony, thank you again for being here. Dr. Hensley, I will hand it to you.
Thank you, Simone. And thank you all for being here. I'm Dr. Jennifer Hensley, pediatric nurse practitioner and founder of Amazing Kids Autism, where we do virtual autism evaluations within 72 hours. So today I'm so honored to share this space with Janetta and Yasmin and Anthony. Every family's autism journey really begins with questions like, what does this mean? How can this happen and what happens next? How do I help my child succeed? Or how do I succeed now with this new diagnosis? And today I really want this seminar to be an answer to these questions, not with judgment, not with overwhelm, but with hope and clarity and tools that you can actually use. So again, I'm so honored. Good morning, everybody. It's so good to see you today. Thank
Delighted
you.
to be here. Thank you.
You're welcome. It's great to have you. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. Again, I'm so honored to share this space with you. You all bring such an important voice to this conversation, and together it really reflects on something essential about the autism journey. It's personal, it's powerful, and it's shaped by your lived experience, your advocacy, and a deep commitment to helping success come from people with autism. So that's why this playbook seminar matters. And autism really isn't just one person's story. It's a journey. And every person with autism is amazing. When Simone and I were trying to decide what should we name our business, the only word we could keep coming up with was amazing. People with autism are amazing. And Anthony, when I saw you at the race, wow, you were phenomenal. I'm so excited. And I'm not going to jump in and put you on the spot right away, but you are really impressive. I'm so grateful that you've decided to join today. So with Janetta having your corporate and your entrepreneurial background, and then Yasmin, your parent advocacy, and Anthony, your will to be successful, this is going to be an amazing seminar today. So thank you everybody for joining. So we're going to kind of take a step back. And Yasmin, when did you first feel that something might be a little bit different and Anthony had this amazing brain?
So my husband actually suspected something, and he was probably about like 2.5, and he all of a sudden looks at me and he's like, I think Anthony has autism. I'm like, what? And that was a long time ago because Anthony's going to be 22. So I remember I didn't know much, and of course I was like actually really like upset, to be honest with you. And I was like, what do you mean? Why would you say that? And I didn't know much, but that was instantly what I said. And I remember he said that, and then, he got diagnosed at 3 years old by a neurologist. But again, there wasn't much information out there, and I didn't know anyone. So it was kind of like hard. But my husband was the one that noticed. He was the first one that saw some signs.
And Janetta, how about you? What was your early stages of diagnosis like for your daughter?
So Lindsay, phew. I think back at that time, and I think that y'all can all sympathize. I like to call it her time of being hell on wheels, right? She was a point run scream kid. And so we kind of watched some of her progress regress, but then, man, you could scream her name and she wouldn't focus in on you, right? She could fall down and have bloody knees and it wouldn't slow her down. But she could point and she could scream real good and she ran all the time. I joke because I was a lot skinnier then because all I did was chase her. But the same type of feeling as what you were saying, you don't want to think that there's anything that could possibly be wrong with your child. You want them to be developmentally healthy. You want them to be physically healthy. You want them to be emotionally healthy. Like, you just want your child to be complete and wonderful in all the ways that you imagined for them. And in our case, when we were told Lindsay has ADD, ADHD, expressive language disorder, regressive language disorder, hypotonia, and autism, followed immediately with the words of, she will never speak again, she will never have any social or academic gains, I just became very defiant. I tell people that was my Julia Roberts moment. If anybody's ever watched Pretty Woman and they know this scene where she goes back in with all of the bags and she's like, big mistake, big, huge. That was my moment in my mind. I just kept thinking Lindsay's going to come back and show you that she's not a book of blank pages. But to be quite candid, to your point just a moment ago, I didn't know what it was that I was railing against. I remember having to look up what autism was on my phone on the elevator ride down. So I was defiant, and it wasn't going to define her, and it wasn't going to limit her in my mind. All of these things like, no, no, no. But I also had no idea what battle I was in for. I didn't know the hurdles that were placed before her and how challenging those would be to overcome and how many of those we would have to learn how to navigate around. So it's hard. And I think that for most of us as parents, we don't necessarily find ourselves upset with the situation that we're in. We'll roll up our sleeves and work through it. But we do grieve the expected pathway that we don't get to walk on, right? Like, we're upset that we don't get to do some of the things that we had always envisioned being able to do. And that's a balancing act that we carry forever. Like, you never get to just be done with that part of it. No matter what kind of triumphs and wonderful things our kids do, there's still a version of it in our head that we wish was easier for them, or that we wish they didn't have to experience, or that we could have gotten differently. And that's just the candid, honest truth. There's a lot of people that say, oh, just love and accept. And we do. Trust me, I love and I am privileged to be a front row seat of my daughter. But there's also an unspoken truth amongst caregivers that there's still some sadness that creeps in from time to time, that they don't get to do X, Y, or Z, or be something that we might have envisioned once upon a time.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. The grieving process is real for both of you. It's scary and it's intimidating. And I love to hear, Janetta, that you were just ready to have your Julia Roberts moment, like you defiant. I don't know if I've ever heard a parent say, I became defiant right away. And so defiant is probably somewhere in the grieving process, right? But maybe part of that anger. And so as parents, you guys know that something's a little different. It's an amazing difference as far as I'm concerned, but as a parent, it's terrifying because you just don't know, like, this is not what I would typically expect. And then you fight to get to that point where somebody will actually listen to you and then that evaluation. Can you both just kind of walk us through what that process looked like for you? Because we're really trying to break down barriers. Right now, children wait anywhere from 1 to 3 years to get an autism evaluation. So with Amazing Kids focusing on just autism diagnostics, we are trying to break down every barrier we can. Can you just describe, it hurts my heart, Janetta, when you said you got the diagnosis and then you were basically told, oh, that's it. She's not going to be able to be as successful as she wants to in the world. That hurts my heart when providers do that, because people with autism are amazing and they can do more than the average person. So putting a cap on them at a diagnosis just pains me as a diagnosing provider. But can you kind of just walk through the timeline and the process of that diagnostic process?
Yeah, we were really fortunate that we had gone to early steps previously. Now, you got to understand that at the age where Lindsay was diagnosed, you weren't given an autism diagnosis until you were age 3. So there wasn't anything that was happening prior to that. And so early steps had been our first line of defense. And we had had a pretty wonderful experience with them, even though they weren't telling us wonderful things. They go, well, she's globally developmentally delayed. And I'm like, well, that sounds pretty terrible. And they were like, no, but they couched it in this way of being like, but maybe if that means if one thing comes back online, maybe everything will come back online. I mean, they were such cheerleaders and trying to help. But so she had that diagnosis of globally developmentally delayed from the age of 18 months. And then we did have to wait for a diagnosis to see a developmental pediatrician, and our wait time was 9 months. We had to wait 9 months in order to get that formal diagnosis. And it was just a polar opposite experience, from one that was trying to encourage and instill hope, and then the other that I felt like was doing everything in their power to remove that. But the result of it is that honestly, none of us as parents have the same path that we will walk. None of us have a silver bullet on what's going to help our kids the same way. We just have to be diligent enough to continue to pursue what opportunities are before us. Because watching Lindsay laugh and have time with her friends, or hearing her first words to me that I had to wait years to hear back, like there's those moments. I feel like I may have lost some other ones that I was alluding to earlier, but the moments that I got were so special, right? Like so many of our families traditionally, with their neurotypical child, their kids talk to them straight away. And so hearing their child say that they love you, or hearing them say goodnight to you, or something of that becomes routine. But for our families, and for my family specifically, the first time Lindsay's able to communicate or say those words out loud, man, the weight of wonderfulness that came with that, I think that's one of the special things that you get as a caregiver to somebody with autism or with any type of disability, is that you just get to see things through a different perspective, and you get to appreciate it a little different.
I love that. Seeing things through a different lens. Beautiful. It's beautiful. And Yasmin, do you want to share Anthony's initial? I know you had mentioned that neurology diagnosed him. Can you share a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so he actually, so he's the first child, and so he didn't have any siblings. And I think, as a parent, especially, like some of the things I was like, well, this is like normal, right? And then I heard some different things. Oh, boys, it takes longer or whatever, and not knowing. And so he never went to daycare. My mother-in-law always helped with him. And we just thought it'd be a good idea for him to be around like some other kids. So he went to a program at a local church, and I forget the name of it. And I remember they mentioned something, and I want to say it was either early steps, or I think that it was maybe called something else. But they did the initial, like, we went in and they did all kinds of testing, and that's when we were told like just all kinds of things. They did not give us like an official diagnosis, but they're like, he's like severely speech delayed. He barely said like 10 words. And so just like little things, some of the stuff that my husband like saw, and now knowing, why he said it, was the lining up stuff. We would, Jenna, kind of like you shared, we would say his name and he didn't like really respond, things like that. And so I remember making an appointment with the neurologist, and I want to say it was several months by the time we saw the neurologist. And then, he did his own, like testing. He obviously asked us, we took like, it was a massive, list of questions that we answered. Excuse me. And as far as getting the results or the diagnosis from the neurologist, I feel like it didn't take as long. I don't quite remember because it's been so long, but the time frame of it, right? And not really knowing, like, okay, where do I go from here? Like, who do I see for the diagnosis? I did kind of my own research and was like, okay, let's go see a neurologist. I think we did go to his pediatrician, and that's probably, now I think back, that's who told us to go to this. And then we kind of looked up some different neurologists in the area and who specialize in this. And that's how, we started going to him, and that's how we got the diagnosis.
Excellent. And Anthony, what do you think about all this? So I see this beautiful quote on your Instagram that says, I am more than an autism diagnosis.
Well, Jennifer, I have lots of autism in me.
Amazing. You have an amazing brain, right?
Yeah, a smart, amazing brain.
I love it. So tell me about your superpowers, or tell the audience. I mean, I've seen your at least one superpower. I'm probably multiple that day, but you were so fast. I couldn't even catch up with you. This is the most still I have seen you since I've met you, because you are the fastest runner I've seen.
Well, I've been running a lot at exercising a lot, swimming a lot, biking a lot.
Excellent. You lift weights too, right?
Yeah, I've
What's your
been lifting
favorite?
weights.
You do, I'm sorry, what?
Well, I like lifting weights. Well, my first one is core, second one is upper body, and the third one is lower body.
Wow. And how many days a week do you do that workout? Do you do it every other day or every day?
I think it's week after week.
Okay. Do you feel like you're getting stronger?
Yes,
Yeah. So what race did you do last weekend?
the race I did last weekend was the Med 5K.
Okay. How'd you do?
Well, I came in second place overall, and I did first place in my age group.
Awesome. Can we do a high five?
Sure.
High five. I'm proud of you. Good job. There you go.
Right.
Good job, bud. You do a race every weekend?
Not quite.
Not quite.
Okay.
Yeah, not quite. He does have an upcoming one this Saturday, right?
Yep, it's called the Hippie Dash 5K
Wow. Very cool. And where is it? Do you know?
at a Safety Harbor.
Okay. Excellent. That's not too far from you, right?
Right.
Excellent. Do you remember anything about your early time where mom told you that you had autism, this amazing autism brain?
Do you remember anything about it?
My autism brain.
Yeah, do you remember anything about it when Dad and I told you that you had autism? Is there anything that you remember about it?
I think it's autism, but is something about how you feel.
Yeah. Do you remember how old you were?
Well,
It was a long time ago. Yeah.
I
A
mean,
long time ago.
I think I was at 7 or 8 years old.
Okay. Good. Are you happy that mom and dad shared that information with you?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, I usually recommend that families do share that information because as the coach of the team, the parents are trying to coach the team, right? This
Hmm.
whole time, mom has been coaching your team and Janetta's been coaching Lindsay's team. But at some point in time, Anthony and Lindsay are going to take over their team, right?
Right.
And once you take over the team, forget it. Becomes easy because you're owning this amazing autism brain, right?
Right.
Awesome. Do you feel like, Anthony, you've taken over your team a little bit, or do you feel like mom and dad still do a lot of the work for you?
Well, I did all the work for Dad at the granary.
Okay, excellent.
I've been helping customers, moving plants, making deliveries, making some money.
Wow, very good. So you're working full time at the nursery with mom
Yeah.
and dad.
Well,
Excellent.
I work at the granary most Monday to Friday.
Okay, excellent. So, with early decisions and support systems, so I'm going to switch back to the moms, Anthony, okay? So, after diagnosis, Janetta, parents often face like some very overwhelming decisions, right? So, you said, "Hey, I'm defiant." I was that defiant. It wasn't denial, it was just defiance that my daughter is going to be successful, correct?
It was that I couldn't imagine that she had such a bleak future when you're looking at such a small child. And normally, when you look at a 2 or 3 year old, you think of the endless possibilities of who they're going to be or what they're going to become or how they're going to, challenge the world in some way or another. And so to look at a 3 year old and say that there's nothing in their future and that there's bleakness, that is what I challenged. I was like, I don't believe that. I believe that there's joy in her life. I believe that there's purpose in her life. I think that there's things that she's going to be able to accomplish, even if there's battles and hurdles before her. She'll be able to persevere through many of them, not necessarily all of them. Again, I was naive. I didn't even know what we were up against, but I just felt like that she had enough tenacity to her, even in her wildly rebellious point run scream stage of life, that there was something there that we were going to be able to tap into. And I was very fortunate that that God just had a different plan for Lindsay.
If you could say something to that provider that told you that her outlook on life would be bleak, that she wouldn't be able to do things, what would you say?
Oh, I still hope that it's Lindsay that gets to say it.
Awesome. I love it.
I still hope
I
that
love
it's Lindsay that just says, "You got it wrong." That
Yep.
I'm able to do much more. because so I don't know how familiar most of your listeners are or your participants are in the ATEC scoring system, but the ATEC score is a subjective questionnaire that you can do through the Autism Treatment and Evaluation Checklist, and it's completely free. It's something that can be done in 21 languages, but if you're a caregiver and you're trying to measure how much progress your child has made, it's sometimes difficult to do that when you're sitting so close to the flame. And so this particular tool allows you to answer questions and then it spits out a number. And the number, the higher the number, the more symptomatic behavior. The lower the number, the closer to neurotypical behavior. And the number does go over 100. But the height of Lindsay's symptoms, she was a 98. And today she's a 2. And
Awesome.
I think that is remarkable in its own right? Like our kids can make up such progress if you give them the support services that they need, if you help them, maybe differently than what you were anticipating helping them with. But I naively thought that once she got into like single digits, or if she didn't have any symptomatic behavior, that meant that somehow or another she would be neurotypical. And that is not the case. So anybody else that is on this journey with us that does have familiarity with that scoring system, Lindsay doesn't have the symptoms, meaning that she's not doing something that would be obvious that she has autism until you talk to her and realize that she's behind academically and that she's behind socially. She still kind of thinks that the world revolves around her and that she can interrupt anybody or talk about anything at any time. There's social skills that we need to work on, and there's academics that she hasn't been able to quantify quite the way that other 15-year-olds would have. But it is a really helpful tool, and anybody that is trying to follow their child's progress, it's nice because sometimes you go onto that and your kid's made a 10-point jump and you've thought that they've just hit a plateau, and it encourages you as a parent to keep pushing and keep going and keep looking for that next thing to try and to look for, because our kids are making progress whether we recognize it all the time or not.
Excellent. And it's hard to quantify the progress, right?
Right.
And you're with them every day. And so what were some of those important choices that you made early on for Lindsay, especially around school and therapy, that you really felt impacted her the most?
So the very first thing that we were introduced to was the concept of food allergies and dietary changes. And that was significant. We did that so early on that we were able to get her a more rounded nutritional diet. So we identified the things that she had sensitivities to. That was important because when you have a child with autism, oftentimes inflammation is a problem. And so if you have a food allergy, that's only going to inhibit that even more so. And so getting rid of some of the things that she was allergic to or had problems with was good, but it also broke her out of what so many of our kids are a part of, which is that brown diet, right? French fries and chicken nuggets and nothing else. And so she was eating salads at 3 years old, and she was eating things, that help. So I think that diet is really, really important and sometimes overlooked when we're working with our youngsters and you say, oh, they won't eat anything else. You got to work really hard at trying to do some of the basics for just biology so that they can be healthy, and having a healthy body will help all of the other therapies that come with that. So coupling that with intensive occupational speech and ABA therapies all when she was young were all really, really important for her to be able to overcome things. I will give the ABA therapist that worked with her when she was 3 all the credit in the world for potty training that girl. Whoo, honey, you're dealing with a hard-headed girl that wants to run away, right? And so she, ABA was instrumental in that portion of it, but I think that it was a collection of all of those. But sometimes people don't talk about the diet and nutrition that goes into it as well. And our kids deserve to be healthy in addition to having their symptoms alleviated in whatever ways we can.
Especially with those restrictive behaviors, food is the first thing to be restricted oftentimes for them. And so it's good that you were able to encourage her to eat that healthy, balanced diet. And hopefully that's persisted for her as well. How about you, Yasmin? What were some early decisions? I know you had mentioned that you had family watch Anthony, and then you also chose specialized private school. Can you talk about how that changed things for him and helped him in those early stages?
Well, so he went to a local public school, which we loved. My daughter actually went there from, kindergarten to eighth grade. But for him, what happened is that we went to his, drawing a blank, what's it called? What's that called when they have in public schools, they have a individual plan.
IEP or
Yes, an
the
IEP. And so we went to that yearly, meeting, and my husband, his dad happened to be there at that time because for him, honestly, those meetings were they were hard for me too to hear, he's not doing this. It was a lot of we felt like it was like a lot of, negative. And so he hadn't been to one in a while. So he's like, I'm going to go to this one. He was in third grade. And the teacher he had happened to be the same teacher he had for kindergarten. And he repeated kindergarten. So, I remember, never forget it, like it was like yesterday. My husband asked her, hey, so what changes, have you seen in Anthony since kindergarten? And she said nothing. Literally, she said the word nothing. And my husband literally turned red. And I was like, oh, this is not going to be good. And we couldn't believe it. And even one of the therapists, one of the teacher's assistant that worked with him for many years, she was like his aide. She couldn't believe that she said that. She's like, I've seen changes. And so that's kind of like, we were like, we need to find, something else. And so did a little research. We found that there was a private small school literally down the street from where we lived who specialized with kids on the spectrum, learning disabilities. So we went for a tour. Long story short, he went there from fourth grade and through 12th grade. And that was definitely the best decision, even though it looked different because it was a small, very, very small school, didn't have all the experiences that a child might have at a public school or a different private school, but I know was the best decision for him because we felt like, the director of the school, understood the kids, the teachers, the other kids kind of understood each other. Not everybody was necessarily on the spectrum, but they either had like a learning disability or something. And so, again, it was just I felt like he felt safe there and that teachers understood as well. So that was probably one of the biggest things that I always am thankful that we decided that.
Excellent. Anthony, what do you remember about school and graduation? Does it feel like so long ago already?
It's been 2 years since I graduated from a school named Center Academy.
Excellent. Do you keep in touch with any of your friends that you went to
Yes.
school with? Do any of them run with you?
Not that went to school there, right?
Well, not the Center Academy students. Well, I used to run with a team named Sun Lake. See,
Okay. Nice. But probably couldn't keep up with you is going to be my guess.
yeah, they were running really fast.
Yeah. When did you realize how much you loved running, Anthony?
I love running because it's my favorite part of exercising.
Oh, that's awesome. And you do the other workouts to get stronger and faster?
Yeah,
Awesome.
I went to a place called D1
Okay. And what do you do there?
exercising.
More exercising. I love it. Does anybody else at home exercise with you? Or are you the only exerciser?
I'm the only exerciser.
You're the only exerciser.
Keep up with him. So he kind of,
Well, my dad used to do his exercise. He likes to lift weights, go for a walk, and ride his bike.
Oh, excellent. Very good. Good, good. And mom's fit too. I see mom works out too.
but yes.
Yeah.
So, Janetta, probably hearing Yasmin talk about their school experience, tell us about the Abilities Workshop. I mean, you're a published author, you have podcasts, you speak all the time, do public speaking.
Yeah.
Tell us about your Abilities Workshop because I'm sure that churns your mama heart and your advocate heart,
Yes.
realizing I have some support here.
I'm listening to you and I heard you, justifying why you chose the school that you did. And it made me so proud because that's where you find success is where you just feel the comfort. And there's usually something that is so undefinable that you show up and it just feels right. And I usually challenge parents when they show up and it doesn't feel right to walk away. Like just because it's supposed to be right and it looks right on paper, if it doesn't feel right, if that isn't the right teacher for your kid, then it's not worth it because the stress and how uneasy everything becomes after that is just so super challenging. No, so to answer your question better, Abilities Workshop was established because when we were navigating autism, we found, at least at that time, the mantra was early intervention, early intervention. And I was like, okay, I'll do it. What is it? And nobody knew, like you had to kind of discover what early intervention was as your own family was entering into this. And it was also time sensitive. And it seemed like nobody gave you a clear answer. And I felt like it was our privilege and our obligation, since other moms and other families had talked to me and kind of coached me up in waiting rooms and on Facebook channels at 2:00 in the morning, that if I could find a way to make it easier for the next family that was diagnosed to be able to navigate some of these questions, that was something that I needed to do. And so I walked away from the corporate world. And I told my husband, I said, so, that corporate job that pays a lot of our bills, we're going to stop that. We're going to start a nonprofit. And I was certain that other people were doing it smarter, better, faster. But, the vision that I had was this little vision of here in Central Florida, we could do these in-person gatherings and train people up and help them find their way. COVID came shortly after that. So it's always really brilliant to start a nonprofit right before a global pandemic. But we persevered through it, and it actually helped us grow in ways that I could never have forecast. But the idea behind it has always been to give people a roadmap of options. That if you're newly diagnosed, you're oftentimes sitting in a waiting room and you've got a parent to your left and a parent to your right telling you things that you need to be investigating or looking into. And I call that waiting room whiplash, because you're looking left and you're looking right and you're like, okay, I'll come up with that. And you don't know what any of the acronyms mean. And it's just a little bit overwhelming. And to put it mildly, it's a little overwhelming because you feel like the fate of your child hinges on every decision that you make and you know nothing. But so that's where accessibility came in, is it's the early diagnosis side of it. Hear all of the different definitions of everything, experts that are talking to you. And hopefully you get to cherry pick the things that are most applicable to your family, and you forge a plan and you move forward. But it was very quickly realized that just helping the newly diagnosed wasn't enough, that we needed to help families that had been on the journey for a while and had hit a plateau. We needed to help families that were transitioning into adulthood. We needed to help families that were in straight up crisis, where the primary caregiver passes away, or suicide prevention, or law enforcement encounters. And so we came up with plans for all of those, and those are all available for anybody in the country to participate in online. But I'm still an in-person girl at heart. I've been waiting this entire conversation to invite you, Anthony, because we do 3 in-person events, and one of them is a superhero 5K. And we run that out at University of Central Florida, and we would really love for you to join us next year. This past year, we had close to 350 registrants, and I would love to see you blow them all away. And that would be awesome, because we have 2 different divisions for the running. You have your traditional runners, and then we have our special athletes. And I would love for a special athlete to take the title for everybody. That would be pretty amazing. So you're going to have to come out and be a part of that with us.
Anthony, what's your PR?
Oh, Anthony's, not mine. Mine's not good.
What's your 5K PR?
I mean, 5K PR? Yeah. Well, I said, okay. All right, 1627.
Holy cannoli.
He's ready, Janetta. He's ready.
Okay, we're going to have to make that happen.
Yes.
But I've been eager to invite you ever since I found out that was your passion. So glad to have the opportunity to do so. Anyhow, that's in February, and we'll have to stay in touch beyond this call. The other thing that we've got coming up is our conference, which is the Autism, Hope, Health, and Abilities Conference. It's happening here in Orlando this summer. We'd love for anybody that wants to come out and be a part of that with us. But all of the doctors that I talked to on the podcast and have lent their expertise and talents, they're all going to be there, as well as many people that are talking about the older demographic. How do you care for an adult differently than a child? What is guardianship and financial planning and post-secondary, and all of the questions that many of us are seeking answers to. I'll be part of that. So that happens in July. And then at the end of the year, we do a holiday pop-up market, which is adults with varying abilities and disabilities that show up and they entrepreneurially sell things that they have made. So candles and shirts and soaps and you name it. It's all at Maker's Market, but it's a holiday pop-up at night underneath of the Christmas lights and under the stars. And for anybody that is listening thinking, oh man, I want to go and walk through a Hallmark movie, this is where you do that. And it's just a community event that happens the Friday night before Thanksgiving. But it's an absolute privilege to be able to carry hope and encouragement onward to other families. And I know it's not always easy. I mean, we live it with you. It's not always easy, but to know that there's people that are rooting for you and that there's answers and that people want to be your friend and find those answers, whatever they might be. You know, it could be that they need to get their child diagnosed really quickly and not wait 3 years or 3 months or 30 days even. They need to have it straight away, and we get to know you. It could be that somebody's looking for an ABA provider that helps somebody over the age of 25, and it's just really wonderful to be able to participate in their stories for just a minute and let them know that somebody cares. So that's what we do.
I love it. You're doing so much. You have like endless energy, I feel like. All of you, all three of you.
Well, I don't put me in the same room as Anthony. I think that I'll look pretty slow pretty quick. I wasn't expecting a 16-minute personal record. That's incredible.
He's impressive.
awesome.
When I don't know, Anthony, did they call you the donut boy at every race, or was that just the Tarpon Springs race because you had your donut running?
Yes, it is the Tarpons race.
Yeah.
Awesome.
You
He's
like
got
all
the
those fun
coolest.
shorts.
Yeah,
Love it.
I call them the chicken legs.
And fun socks too, right?
Yeah.
You're impressive. You're impressive. So, as a healthcare provider diagnosing autism, you know, most healthcare providers are so limited with time. And so we get our patients in, we get you diagnosed, and then we give you a paper and say, you know, you have autism. These are the things we recommend. You know, good luck if you can get back in with me. Good luck. I'd like to see you again. But reality is, you're probably not going to be able to get back in with me. So we're really trying to change that through Amazing Kids, which is why I wrote the Autism Playbook. So you guys both touched on it. It's important to put people on the bench when they're not doing their job. And there's all kinds of reasons why they're not doing their job. And I would say 99.9% of the time, it's not any malicious intent. It's just they're not doing the job at that moment for your child that's necessary. And so putting that school on the bench, Yasmin, bringing in the private school, putting them at first base, or that speech therapist, that ABA therapist, the audiologist, the community adaptive sports, the running sports, putting the right players in the right place at the right time is critical for advancement and development. So you both have mastered this, right? I mean, we don't have time to fix people, but we got to put them on the bench when they're not doing their job. So that's an important part of being a coach. And then doing the outreach that you're doing and helping other families to the degree that you're doing, Janetta, is just phenomenal that you're not only taking care of things for yourself and your family, but you're sharing your knowledge and your experience. And Anthony and Yasmin, you're sharing your testimony. Like, Anthony, you are a hero. Other kids with autism can look at you and say, I want to be Anthony when I grow up, because you have a skill and a talent and you're sharing that with others just by going out there and running. I'm so proud of you.
Thank you.
I second that. Being an inspiration is a really cool role to have in the community. Let others be able to see all of the abilities that you share. That's pretty amazing. Not to steal your word.
It's beautiful. So for families listening, this journey can feel so overwhelming. And again, the whole focus of these seminars, these Autism Playbook seminars, are to empower parents with teamwork. I think another thing that you've both talked about today is looking to your left and looking to your right. Like, that's so important. Nobody's walking this walk but you and these other parents, and even their walk is going to be so much different than yours, but sharing that knowledge and that experience and a path moving forward. And where's the light? And we got to follow that light. And so I know, Janetta, you've definitely used your faith to move yourself forward. I see that radiated all over all of your websites, your journey of your faith, your perseverance, and that unexpected purpose. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Oh, well, yeah, I wasn't expecting that. But yes, the answer is that Abilities Workshop is a Christian-based organization. And honestly, none of this comes together if it weren't for God. Like, everything has been a God story. We often start saying, oh, well, this is Lindsay's story or this is our story. But I'm here to tell you that it's never been our story. It's always been a God story. And the vision that I had for Lindsay to be successful paled in comparison to the vision that God had for her to be successful. The same for Abilities Workshop, the things that we were intending to do and then what it's grown to become, all things that are outside of the scope of anything I had ever planned. But if somebody is considering starting a respite group or working with Empowering a Church to have some type of respite for the congregation to be able to get more engagement, I'm going to tell you that this is the sign you've been looking for to hear. Like, know that this is the moment, and you're like, oh, am I supposed to do that or not? And I'm telling you right now, yes, do this. Because I'll try to keep this story short, but in our experience, my husband and I were both raised in the church. But then, when you get into your early 20s, you become what I call and what others call a CEO, Christmas and Easter only. Then you have kids and you say, I want to get back into the church. And so you go find a church. And my husband and I found one that was fairly large and we could come and go with anonymity. It was great. We didn't want people all up in our business necessarily, but we liked the church well enough. And I could have never forecast that we didn't even have Lindsay. She wasn't born yet when we started going to that church. But then when she does get a diagnosis, they had a program in place so that there was another lady that was my age that would show up every week, and she would take care of Lindsay in Sunday school, right, and be her buddy, so that me and my family could go to service. And then she would wait after she was done with Lindsay and go with her family to the second service. And her doing that created accountability with us to getting back involved in the church and having a relationship with God. It's definitely the reason I was baptized again as an adult. But I tell this story to help people understand that Jennifer was a catalyst in changing our lives. And all she was doing in her mind was helping Lindsay every Sunday morning chase lizards, right? She was just being present. And, it was through all of the different relationships that I ended up growing at that time that Abilities came into focus. And Abilities has been able to help so many families. And it all stems back to one person volunteering and wanting to take time to be with Lindsay regularly. And so if you're listening and you think this is something that I should be doing, or I want to participate in, or I think that I want to do it at church, do it. It matters. You may never see the ripple effect of the tidal wave you'll create, but it happens. The impact starts there. And being with our kids in those moments matters significantly. So that's my answer to how has faith instilled all of this. It's been everything. It's been everything from the very beginning all the way through.
I love that. I love that. And Jennifer got a key place on the field, right?
Yep.
Absolutely, right?
Right. Jennifers are good people.
I'll take that. I'll take that. So Yasmin, your family also stepped into advocacy through Anthony's journey and your social presence. Can you talk about what's inspired you to start sharing publicly and what impacts you've seen from that?
So my husband had the idea, both him and I are personally on Instagram, and we have it for, our business. And I remember him looking at me, and it's going to be 2 years in about 2 weeks. He's like, what if we started a page for Anthony and we ran it? And we're going to call it Aunt Boy's Journey. And, at the time he had just started kind of running with a local public school. Long story short, his school did not have running a program. They didn't have track. It was a small private school. So we found out, again, this was not something we knew, but if you live near a public school and you're going to a private school, I forget what it's called, but you can get where your child can participate. And we kept looking for something. He didn't do well. He didn't care for like team stuff. So he started running. So we saw the passion, we got a lot of like feedback from people, and we're like, you know what, let's share his story. So we just kind of share the story about, how when he was diagnosed, we shared pictures and things. And then we just started sharing, him, like, videos, what he was doing. And, I remember when he got, the 1,000 followers, we're like, we never would have thought, and I remember just, celebrating, I'm like, 1,000 followers or whatever. But it was mainly just to bring like awareness that it doesn't matter the diagnosis, it shouldn't like stop a family, right? Just, keep pushing his, my husband had these bracelets made. So any opportunity we get, we like to pass them out just to be, stay positive. Aunt Boy's Journey, we can do hard things. That's like, our motto. We're always like, remember, you can do hard things. We can do hard things. And it's really cool because, he got to meet a lot of great young men, young women who, run. And so, he'll get recognized. It's kind of funny. This last race, my husband was cracking up. I'm like, what are you laughing at? He's like, oh, I just heard a young man say, oh, there's that Anthony guy, like, watch out for him, And so it cracks us up because, he's like, I don't, we always tell him, we're like, you're so amazing. Everyone loves to hear like the story. And it's just that it doesn't matter, what the diagnosis is, like autism, anything, like don't let that stop you of what you're passionate about. And one thing that the doctor told us, which he still sees a doctor once a year, not that he prescribes them anything or that he takes anything currently. And he told us from the beginning, he's like, find his passion, find his thing. And he has found his thing, the running. That's been therapeutic for him. I think that physical exercise is super important. So for him, it's not that he runs every day. He does run quite often weekly, but him doing, the workout or whatever, it releases so much for him. Like he's like a totally different person. If he doesn't work out, you can see that. And so it's been great to share the story so that families know that anything is possible. Don't let a diagnosis limit your child. Like that's just the main thing. Anything's possible.
I love that.
Yeah.
Anthony, what would you want other kids, younger kids with autism? What would you say to them about you and autism or their autism? You have any advice?
What would you say?
Like, do you kids have good autism or bad autism?
So how do you give them hope for the good autism?
Like, how you doing and how are you?
Yeah, you just make a friend, right? And no limits, right?
Yep, I started making friends.
Awesome. And I really do love your quote. I am more than an autism diagnosis. It doesn't define you, right?
Right.
So you could definitely share that with them also. You're a pretty special guy. Is there anything else you want to share with us today?
What'd you guys do this weekend?
That's good. I think that's a great start to a conversation. I'm proud of you. Thank you so much for your honesty and your perspective today. You've been wonderful. I do want to take some time and open the floor for some questions. If anybody might have some questions. Conversations like this always remind us that autism isn't a single story and it really is a lifelong journey shaped by people and support and all kinds of possibility. So, any questions from our audience?
Well, while we're waiting, I can ask a question. I would love to hear from everyone, from all three of you, what you are most proud of right now. So, like Janetta, what are you most proud of? I think from you it would be from two perspectives, like in the work that you've done, but then also most proud of your daughter for or what she's accomplished. And then Yasmin, same thing, what you are so proud of. And then Anthony, of course, we would love to hear that from you too.
So the most beautiful thing that has come from the organization is the collaborativeness of the community willing to band together and to find solutions and partner together. I love that. And I'm proud to see that every chance that I get when I see a new organization or a new initiative and they're willing to work with the existing framework in some way and you get to see everybody kind of move forward together. That's special. When it comes to Lindsay specifically, it would be easy for me to say that I'm proud of her accomplishments that are social or her talking or the things that she's done. But I feel like I'm most proud of her when I recognize that she's in a difficult situation. Like I can see that it's more challenging for her and that she'll still find a way to either keep her calm or to recognize that, she's having a hard time. And so I get proud of her in those moments, which sounds counterproductive, but those are the moments that I'm like, I see how hard this is for you and that you're still persevering. And I think that that's very special. And sometimes, those are the moments that you just go, whew, we've still got some work to do, but look at you go. Like a lot of other people that that are neurotypical, there are children that, might give up more easily or they're frustrated and they walk away from something. And I just think it's really special that we get to see our kids push past some of their boundaries. Now, I'm not saying they always behave perfectly when they're pushing past it, but when they are and they're asked to do more than what they feel like they can do, and they continue to get up each morning and try that, that's where I'm most proud.
Yeah, that's amazing. Thank you for sharing.
Oh, yeah, my pleasure.
Yasmin, Anthony, anything to add? Would you like to share?
Yeah, I was same thing that Janetta said, just being proud. Anthony doesn't give up. He might be tired when he comes home from work, but he'll like do his, afternoon workout in the garage to get it done because it's on the schedule and he's gonna get it done. So he's never like given up, even on the days where he's like tired or just not feeling it. And when there's been times where like it's okay, you don't have to do that today or whatever. And he's like, nope, it's on the calendar, I'm doing it. So since day one, he's always one of the things that I love about him is that he's never given up as hard as it might be or a negative experience or a negative day, he always turns it around. So that's what I'm most proud of.
I think that's one of the first things that comes across about Anthony when because I'm meeting him for the first time, and that absolutely seems spot on to me.
How about you, Anthony? What are you most proud of?
I bet there's lots of things. You probably can't even limit it to one thing, right?
I am proud of doing the best. I am proud of being myself, and I'm proud of doing good in the races, and I'm very proud of being here with my family.
Oh,
Beautiful. Beautiful. And we have a comment in the chat saying, that's awesome, Anthony, from Savannah. So our
there's also
mission
another
here-
comment in the comments about how much Jenna enjoys following Anthony on Instagram.
Oh, you got followers. You probably got so many followers, Anthony.
Yep, I got a billion of followers.
You have what?
I got a lot of followers.
I love it. You are such an inspiration. Thank you for running and thank you for sharing your journey.
You're welcome.
So at Amazing Kids, we believe people with autism are truly amazing. Our mission is to bring clarity sooner through evidence-based evaluations and to elevate conversations that replace fear with understanding. You are the expert on your child, with or without a diagnosis. You are the expert. You know what your child needs. And we've had 3 amazing speakers here today that have shown you how to advocate. I want to put a little bit of a plug in for book Autism Advocacy Interrupted, so you can learn about the 4 types of autism advocates. I always tell my families, if you're not a leader, you need to learn how to be a leader. Your child has this diagnosis, you got to get ready and get this figured out because your child needs you to coach the most amazing team in this world. And until that child takes over the team, you are on duty 24/7. And so get ready. And I think that I haven't had the chance to read this book yet, but Janetta, I'm going to grab it and I'm going to read it. I know there's wonderful information in there for families. And then if this conversation has resonated with you, we want to invite you to reserve a seat to our Autism Playbook seminars. Simone has put in the chat. We have 2 upcoming seminars. We are here to help you navigate your diagnosis, access the right supports, and move forward with confidence. And to every family listening, you're not behind, you're not failing your child, and most importantly, you're not alone. We know you have amazing kids at home, just like Anthony and just like Lindsay. Give them the tools, and they can do anything in this world that anybody else can do, even better.